It was born in a storm of fire and steel, a proud new U-boat sliding into the cold waters of Bremen, built for a war already slipping away. 56 men climbed aboard, believing destiny waited somewhere across the Atlantic. But destiny had other plans. This submarine would not fall in battle. It would not die where history claims. It would simply vanish, leaving behind a mystery that has haunted the ocean for 80 years. Tonight, the deep finally reveals what happened. There are places in the ocean where light does not simply fade, it surrenders. At 200 feet below the Atlantic, the world becomes something else. A cold, crushing silence where colors die and shadows grow teeth. Tonight, our ROV drifts through this darkness like a lone lantern carried into the underworld. Every beam of light cuts through clouds of drifting silt, particles that have been sleeping here for 80 years. And then, something enormous takes shape. A curve of steel, a tower, a silhouette that seems to exhale from the blackness itself. A German U-boat, but not just any. This submarine is U-869, a vessel that should not be here at all. German naval records, Allied reports, and post-war documents all insisted U-869 sank near Gibraltar, thousands of miles from this spot off New Jersey. Yet here it lies, perfectly preserved in darkness. A tomb of 56 men who vanished twice. First into the ocean, and then into the lies of history. Tonight, we pierce that darkness. Tonight, we follow the echoes of their final dive. U-869 began its story far from this cold Atlantic seafloor in the industrial heart of Germany. By 1943, the war was slipping from Hitler's grasp. The Atlantic, once a hunting ground for German U-boats, had become a graveyard of crushed steel and shattered dreams. Allied technology was improving faster than Germany could respond. Radar, sonar, escort carriers. The ocean had turned from predator's paradise to execution ground. And yet, in April 1943, in a vast hall of steel and sparks, engineers laid the keel for a new predator, U-869, a Type IXC, 40 submarine long range, heavily armed, built to roam thousands of miles from Europe. At 251 feet long, it carried 22 torpedoes, a 10.5 centimeters deck gun, 37 millimeters and 20 millimeters, twin diesel engines, hundreds of lead-acid battery cells, and a crew of 56 souls. It was meant to be a ghost. Invisible, silent, unstoppable. But the world it was born into was dying fast. U-869 was assigned to Captain Lieutenant Helmut Neuerberg, a thoughtful, technically skilled officer. Not brash, not theatrical, but calm, methodical, respected by his men. He was 28. This would be his first U-boat command. Crew logs recovered later described him as quiet but sharp, a man who never raised his voice, always studying diagrams, always calculating. This was a captain who trusted engineering and fought a war where malfunction was often deadlier than the enemy. U-869 was initially assigned to Operation Pauschal, a coordinated attack near Gibraltar intended to disrupt Allied shipping. But chaos was now the rule, not the exception. German command sent a new order: redirect U-869 to the U.S. East Coast, where Allied shipping lanes ran fat with supply convoys. But wartime communication was fragile. Interference, encryption delays, and the fog of war meant one terrifying possibility. Neuerberg may never have received the new orders. He may have sailed believing his target was Gibraltar, while German command believed he was heading for America. A catastrophic split between intention and reality. Late 1944, U-869 slipped into the North Sea and vanished beneath the waves. A steel shadow, moving toward a destiny even history would misunderstand. For decades, the official Allied record stated U-869 was sunk off Gibraltar by 2 U.S. destroyers. Textbooks repeated it. Naval historians accepted it. But none of it was true, because the real U-869 was already lying on the seabed just off New Jersey, unseen, unvisited, unknown, waiting for the world to find it again. The ROV drops through layers of water that feel almost physical. Thermoclines shimmer like invisible curtains, barriers between one world and the next. At 150 feet, the light becomes blue-black. At 200 feet, it becomes nothing at all. Our lights snap on. The beam sweeps left. Nothing sweeps right. A shape moves inside the silt, not moving, but appearing. The conning tower emerges first, ghostly and regal. Its once smooth metal is now a patchwork of rust, corrosion, and barnacle scars. A shattered railing spirals downward like a broken spine. The deck gun, once a threat to Allied ships, now points at nothing, a steel finger reaching into the void. We drift past the tower, tracing the hull's length. The submarine lies on its starboard side as though trying to hide its wounds. And then we see it, the first sign of something terribly wrong. The forward hull is torn open, but the metal is bent inward, not outward. No depth charge did this. This destruction came from inside. The ROV stabilizes, slowly rotating its camera. A massive gash near the bow leads into darkness. This is the entrance to the forward torpedo room, the place where the final seconds of U-869's life began. The ROV's thrusters pulse, lights brighten, and we enter the wound. Inside is nothing but black water, drifting particles, and the faint memory of 56 men. The walls close tightly. Pipes hang overhead like ribs in a sunken leviathan. Somewhere, a loose cable taps gently against steel, a tiny, ghostly heartbeat. We push deeper. The ROV's lights sweep across twisted machinery. 4 torpedo tubes sit in the bow, 2 partially collapsed, 2 pulverized. This doesn't look like combat damage. It looks like a weapon detonated inside the submarine before it ever left the tube. The bulkhead is peeled inward, floor plates lifted, wiring bundles fused by intense heat. This is forensic evidence of a circular running torpedo. The T5 acoustic torpedo was infamous. If its guidance malfunctioned, its circular pattern could loop back, hunting the loudest propellers nearby. Sometimes, those belonged to the submarine that fired it. We move deeper, and the ROV finds something chilling, a shattered gyro control motor, the device that kept torpedoes on course. Blown apart, scorched, the final piece of the puzzle. But this wreck holds more than forensic truth. It holds human memory. The ROV drifts into the command center. Dials and gauges stare blankly, frozen on the last values they ever recorded. Depth, 90 meters. Battery load, unstable. Air pressure, dropping. The shock wave from the torpedo blast must have ripped through the submarine instantly, killing or incapacitating nearly everyone. But something on the wall catches the camera's eye. A clipboard, sealed under decades of sediment. A single page remains legible, the shift log for the day they died. A fictionalized reconstruction. 15% permitted. The last written note. Trim check. Complete. Awaiting orders. No panic. No chaos. No hint of doom. Just routine. And then, obliteration. We enter a narrow passage lined with bunks. Most are collapsed. Some still hold remnants of blankets. A pair of boots floats weightlessly. A rusted harmonica rests where its owner once stored it. These are personal items, the final fingerprints of lives interrupted. The camera lingers on one bunk in particular. Pinned beneath a metal beam is a small metal object, a pocket compass. Its needle still trembles in the current. A fictionalized reconstruction. A young crewman carried it. A gift from home. A reminder of direction in a war that had none. Massive diesel engines loom in the dark, their surfaces blackened by chemical reaction. The battery cells nearby are shattered, acid scorched into the metal floor. If the torpedo blast didn't kill the crew instantly, the release of battery fumes would have finished the job within seconds. This was not a prolonged death. It was sudden, final, silent. The ROV backs out slowly, turning toward the last unexplored space, the aft compartment. Here, the hull is intact, quiet, almost peaceful. A single mug floats by, still decorated with chipped paint of a cartoon sailor. A fictionalized reconstruction. A crewman might have sipped hot ersatz coffee from it on the morning the submarine fired the torpedo that sealed all their fates. The ROV's light flickers across the wall, revealing a faint chalk mark, 56. Someone once wrote the number of their crew here, a tally of souls in a steel world beneath the waves. It is still readable, still waiting. The camera pulls back, returning to the bow. All clues now converge. Inward blown hull, shattered gyro motor, fractured tube doors, chemical burns, absence of external blast patterns. There's no doubt. U-869 was not sunk by American destroyers. It was destroyed by its own torpedo, looping back in a fatal arc. A malfunction that killed 56 men instantly and sent the submarine silently to the bottom. History wrote a lie. The ocean kept the truth. The wreck of U-869 rests quietly now, a long shadow on the sand, arms folded in its final pose. Captain Lieutenant Helmut Neuerberg and his 56 crewmen never knew what hit them. They never saw their attacker. They never stood a chance. And for half a century, even history forgot where they died. But the ocean remembered. Every twisted pipe, every shattered tube, every rusted bunk, every drifting scrap of a life once lived, all preserved in cold darkness, waiting for someone to listen. Tonight, we listened. We followed the beams of our ROV through the bones of a steel leviathan and found the truth, written in metal scars, a truth of war's chaos, of technology's betrayal, of young men swallowed by silence. As we ascend toward the surface, the wreck fades back into blackness, claiming its place again among the lost. But its story, its tragedy, its echo remains. The ocean never forgets, and neither do we. This is the final dive of U-869.